Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you are doing well. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. As you can see, I do not have the screen capture on. I am just going to be recording just my face and talking about something that we kind of came across in a live stream. So if you haven't been watching my live streams, please do join them. We talk about Star Wars, movies, pop culture, pretty much everything. We're going to be starting a movie trivia night every week where I ask several movie-related questions, and the first person to ask it gets a point, and then whoever gets the most points ends up winning a prize at the end, which could be a despecialized edition of Star Wars, could be a Blu-ray from my collection, or also could be a digital copy of a film too. So a lot of different options for anyone for whatever you might have. But we came across this idea talking about Star Wars and talking about how one could actually fix Luke Skywalker. So everyone knows that The Last Jedi kind of just ruined his character. There's really no explanation as to how he became the person that he is. The immediate excuse is, oh, well, it's been 30 years, so of course. I mean, it's been 30 years, of course he's different, right? But that's not a good explanation. And everything that we're given in the film does not explain how he goes from a guy who is willing to sacrifice himself to save his father to a person who will then kill essentially a teenager because he might turn to the dark side and he might be beyond saving. That just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't hold water. It just doesn't match up. So here is the theory that me and my chat, I want to say it was a collaborative effort because someone threw out the idea of this and then I kind of jumped on it and spun around with it. So what if, and also forewarning, if you have not read the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn, I highly recommend you do, but there is some slight spoilers to it, at least for one of the characters, and so just want to give you forewarning about that. So in those stories, in the first book, we're introduced to a character named Jerus Sabayoth, who is, we find out, a cloned Dark Jedi. And so it brings up an interesting concept that it was not just Jango Fett who was being cloned, copied over and over and over again. Instead, there were other clones that existed at the time. So what you find out is that Palpatine ordered the cloning of this Dark Jedi because he knew how powerful he was, just in case, things got out of hand. And what's interesting is that then we could easily say that the person that existed in The Last Jedi was not Luke Skywalker, but Luke's clone. Now, I know some people might say, that's a little convoluted, that's a little silly. But at the same time, it also helps to explain why Luke is so different, because what you understand when you read Heir to the Empire, as you continue to read through the Thrawn trilogy, is that Jerus Sabayoth being a clone is not mentally stable, is not exactly right. And that's one of the reasons why the cloning just never really worked, because every person that they ended up cloning, including the Jango Fetts, were not perfect. There was something off about them, and even you can see this in the Clone Wars series too. Every clone has a different personality. So there's something slightly different to every single clone, so it makes sense that the Luke Skywalker clone that we're talking about here would also be different, would not be the same optimist, would not be the one to see the goodness in others, would not be the one that would actually want to, reach themselves out to try and save Kylo Ren in this situation, and would actually instead want to, would not actually want to destroy him, which is what we ended up getting in The Last Jedi. So it would make total sense from that perspective. It would explain why Luke's character was very different, but also it'd be a really cool backstory to help explain why Luke Skywalker is actually still alive and will come back and return in Episode 9. So we went off and talked about, well, how would he come back? Here's another really cool concept that goes with this story arc. So imagine this, that Supreme Leader Snoke knew exactly this about Luke Skywalker, understood that it was not actually Luke Skywalker, but was his clone, because he was the one that was holding captive the real Luke Skywalker, secret to Kylo Ren, who did not know, since Kylo Ren was relatives with Luke, relatives with Luke Skywalker, him being his uncle. And instead, the Knights of Ren, who have not been mentioned since Episode 7, are actually the ones. The reason why they weren't in Episode 8 is because when they went off, they were given a special mission by Supreme Leader Snoke to keep watch and guard and protect and hide the real Luke Skywalker. So then you have a story arc where you find out it was actually a clone of Luke, and then also what you find out is that Luke Skywalker is actually still alive. So guys, what are your thoughts on this theory? I know I'm not the first person to mention this, and I'm not trying to take credit for its originality. I just thought it was interesting. It was a fun thing that we talked about on last night's live stream, and also the live stream before then, because there's a lot of really cool ways that you can take the character, and it really does address one of the biggest issues. Now, of course, there are so many other issues with The Last Jedi. You can talk about Mary Ray Sue. You can talk about her character. You can talk about how every single plot point that's set up in the first film, in Episode 7, is essentially just done away with. And sometimes, it's like when, you're given a a soft toss in baseball just for you to hit it out of the park. Well, Rian Johnson decided instead of trying to even hit it and striking out, he just ran out of the damn park. Like, he just ran away from every storyline that J.J. Abrams set up for him, and that puts J.J. in a very precarious situation because where does he go with these characters? It just does not make any sense, and there are just so many damn plot holes. And every time we do a live stream, we talk about and come up with another way, another plot hole that doesn't exist. For example, the disappearing knives, the one that should have easily killed Rey that just randomly disappears in the shot. The fact that the actress who played Rey, Daisy Ridley, messed up one of her stunt sequences to the point where it just looks off because you understand, oh, wait a minute, no, she should have died then because she made a mistake, and that's less on her and more on Rian Johnson and the editing team for leaving that scene in there. So there are so many plot holes, there are so many issues, there's so many problems, but the biggest one I feel that hurts a lot of people is Luke Skywalker, because that was not Luke Skywalker. And some people say, oh, just quit whining, your man, baby. Just get off this topic and let it go. It's never gonna change. And blah, 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 blah. Like, trolls, online just complain about it. But at the end of the day, I've said this several times before, just like people who are fans of sports teams or anything else, sometimes a fandom, sometimes something you love can become truly a part of who you are. So there are a lot of people who grew up with Star Wars, either the prequels or the OT, or even the EU, even the extended universe with Thrawn and all these other awesome characters. And for them, when they saw that, they said, wait a minute, this isn't Luke Skywalker. What are they doing? This is an important part of my life. What are they doing to this? What is Rian Johnson doing to this character? And one of the biggest problems was how they handled Luke Skywalker, because at the end of the day, you cannot tell me that the Luke Skywalker that we got in the original trilogy, and even further into the extended universe, which I know some people say, oh, well, that's not canon. No, Disney said that it's not canon. Even though that might be the case, it doesn't change the fact that it was very consistent. The books remained very consistent with the character that was first established in the original trilogy, in the OT, which was done away with not only in The Force Awakens, because the real Luke would not have just run off to a random island and let everything go into chaos. That would make no sense whatsoever for the original Luke Skywalker. And then also too with the Last Jedi, where he just turns into this the pseudo hermit who can somehow get beaten by someone who's never been trained in the Force before. It just doesn't make any damn sense. And also, or there's a lot of people like to say Jake Skywalker as the explanation, but having him be a clone though would not only justify and explain why his character was different. So you would fix one of the problems with The Last Jedi, because now every time that we would go back to watch it, we would say, wait a minute, I now know that's not the real Luke Skywalker. Instead, that is his clone. So that's why he's different. His personality is off. It's not the exact same. He still has a lot of the same powers, of course, because it is still a clone, but he's just not quite perfect. And it would help to explain those things. So that's just one idea. Of course, there's other ideas like maybe he just transported himself because his arm didn't fall off. There's a lot of things like that. But I think even Rian Johnson has said, "Oh, that was just a mistake," which makes sense because Rian Johnson made a lot of mistakes and has even admitted that he's not a good writer. Yet some people still cannot accept the fact that he's not a good writer and that the film was poorly written, even though he himself has said that he is not a good writer. I just don't understand it. But I'm getting off topic. But guys, what are y'all's thoughts on this? Do you think Luke Skywalker as a clone could work? Again, there is enough backstory, there is enough history. Obviously we have in the episodic series, we had the Clone Wars show, so we know that cloning is a part of this universe. And also if we go off and look to some of the EU, even though some of it has been decanonized, or at least most of it has been decanonized, it still is not that far of a stretch for Luke Skywalker to have some point have been made a clone. So it could be really interesting. And also you can even work it where maybe he's been a clone for a very long time. Maybe he's been a clone since Return of the Jedi, or maybe Empire Strikes. There's so many things that you could do with it. And I don't think they should go back that far, but at least it would make sense. It would help to explain why his character is so vastly different and why he ended up doing the things that he did in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. And some people say, oh, you just get over it, man. No, I'm sorry, but I love movies. And I love narrative consistencies. And one of the biggest narrative inconsistencies of this new trilogy is the fact that Luke Skywalker, who is set up, his personality was set up, he was training new Jedi, all of a sudden randomly decides to kill or think about killing a teenager. It just doesn't make any sense. So guys, what are y'all's thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. You guys are amazing. I love you so much. Have a great day. And as always, God bless.